I just had the worst car buying experience ever. As you guys know, I just bought this awesome 2024 Audi RSQ8. And I did buy it sight unseen, never driven one. I have driven a Lamborghini Urus, which is the exact same vehicle, but you know, this one's $100,000 cheaper. But what I was really shocked at is how this dealer actually treated me. And I have gotten over 7,000 car deals under my belt. And out of those over 7,000 car deals, this one right here is the worst experience. Let me first start explaining that this is not the first time that I've went to a third-party dealership and bought a car. Yes, I've been in the car business for 24 years. Yes, you guys know that I've worked for a super large Chevy dealership, but I've actually bought at other Chevy dealerships across the nation while working at a Chevy dealership because I'm able to negotiate very, very good and make sure I can get a better deal even when I work for that dealership. So back in 2011, I bought a brand new Chevy Malibu. I drove 2 hours north to Penske Chevrolet up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and was able to get a better deal than what I could at my own dealership. 2019, my dealership wanted to kind of mess around a little bit, so I went to Dan Cummins, an hour and a half east of us, and I bought a brand new Chevy Cruze for my youngest daughter for her to drive. So I've definitely have bought cars from other dealerships, and those are just two instances. But this dealership that I bought this Audi from, I'm really shocked by the experience I had. To give you a little bit of backstory on this, when I first started looking for a vehicle after I sold my truck, a Lamborghini Urus pulled up here at the dealership to get some service work on it. I'm like, ooh, I've always wanted a Urus. They're fun to drive. I've driven them. My friend Troy's had several of them. I've driven his. They're a fun car to drive. But then I thought, I work in a small town, I live in a small town, and I don't think that that would be a good PR move to be driving around in a small town in a Lamborghini Urus. I just don't think it would look good. They start thinking, hey, this guy's making too much money. Even though my money doesn't come from this dealership or comes from the detail shop, I started thinking, it's like, oh, you know what? The RSQ8 is the exact same vehicle and it's 100 grand cheaper. That's kind of nice. So that's what I focused on looking for. Well, I quickly found out that the RSQ8 is the absolute hardest vehicle to find in the United States right now. Absolutely insane to find these vehicles. They're all sold out. I contacted the local Audi dealer here in Louisville, Kentucky, and they're like, yeah, if you order one now, you're probably 2 years out. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? Wow. So then I started looking at Audi's website and I found one in Kansas City, Missouri. And at this point of my process, I'm just not too sure if I do want to spend this type of money on a new car. I've spent this money before, but over a period of time, like on the Corvette, right? Had to rebuild the engine, all that stuff. But I've never spent this much money on a brand new car in one fell swoop. So I started thinking about it, contacted Audi of Kansas City, and with me thinking, time kills deals, my infamous saying, with me thinking about it, they sold that car. And so I was like, well, it wasn't meant to be. I just didn't need to buy that car. I'm not gonna buy an Audi. And my wife convinced me to buy the Audi. She says, you're gonna like it, you're gonna love it, you're gonna have fun with it, you want 600 horsepower in a car, so you do it. And then she's told me that the dogs needed something to ride in as well. So I started looking at used cars, and I found one in Arizona with 900 miles on it, and it was about 6 grand from MSRP originally, but it was a 2023 model, not a 2024 model. So I negotiated with them and I got $7,000 under their asking price. And I was like, that's kind of a pretty good deal. And the advantage of me buying a used one is I can put it in the dealership's inventory for sale and not have to pay sales tax on it. So that saves me $10,000, $11,000 there. But then I just realized, like, you know what? I'm really a new car buyer, and this gray one that they had just didn't have all the options. I wanted the better radio and all that stuff, and just they didn't have those options, so I passed on that one. Then I ran across this dealership that I bought this blue one from that had every option, and my wife says, call them. And this one I didn't want the 𝘊𝘥 steering wheel, which I've told you in the past, and I'm like, I'll call them, I'll see if they've got it. And when I hit them up, I said, hey, listen, I want to work with the #1 car salesman that you guys have. I don't want somebody who's been there for a couple months, 6 months, 5+ years, and in your building working for Audi. You know, it's kind of like if and the Cubs and I'm playing the Brewers, which is our #1 rivalry, and I'm not going to put my #2 pitcher on the mound of the first game of the series. I'm going to put my #1 pitcher on the mound, right? So that's why I want to do that. Plus, I have some credibility with that salesman that he knows what he's doing and that he's going to take care of me. But man, was I completely wrong. I trademarked buying a car doesn't have to suck for a reason. It's just not a trademark to me. It's not just a mantra to the dealership. It is a way of life. This is the way I have thought since the year 2000 when I got in the car business. In 2000, when I got in the car business, I was behind on my mortgage. I had 3 kids. I didn't know where I was gonna have any money at. So I took a vow that I was not going to treat anybody bad in this car business. I was not going to screw anyone over, and I was going to be a big disruptor for the automotive industry so that I can help the consumer have better car buying experiences. That's my #1 thing. That's what this all means. And buying a car doesn't have to suck just doesn't mean when you're actually at the dealership buying it, it means before you purchase it. So that way we as a dealership, we can publish everything that we know. We can tell you everything we know. We can tell you the process of our dealership here, of how we handle things, because every dealership handles things differently. So I want to put that out there. This is how we do this. That's how every dealership should work, but unfortunately they don't. But when you're here, we don't hassle on price or haggle on price here at the car dealership, because that's what sucks about buying a car. The fact that you have to go back and forth, you don't get to talk to the manager, and most importantly, walking out of the dealership knowing, did I really get a good deal? That's the worst part of the whole car buying experience. And then after the sale, and this is where I focus the most, I always focus after the sale because it's so important to me as an individual, as the owner of Mike's Car Store, to make sure that when you are buying a used car from me, that you have a good experience when you leave. I don't want to sell a car that's going to break down in 2 or 3 days. Yes, I'm selling used cars, and I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball to know what's going to happen in the future. And I think most people know that as well. But I can tell you right now, when there's a car on my lot for sale, I can promise you that it is in good working order and that nothing bad is going to happen to it down the road. So with all of that in mind, do you think 1% chance that when I call a third-party dealership, I ask a lot of questions? I am inquisitive and want to know why you are telling me this is the way it's going to happen, why we do it this way. I'm not doing something just because that's the way we do it, right? That's such a cop-out answer. So when I called this dealership, like I said earlier, I asked for the #1 salesperson. I wanted to work with the #1 person because I knew I was going to get treated the best. I was like, how's this work? How's this work? How's this work? Here's what I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And he confirmed a few things with his management staff. The management staff is what really messed up this entire deal, not the salesperson. So one of the things that I did is I borrowed some money on the Audi with Navy Federal. The reason I borrowed the money is because I got 4.99% rate. In 2024, 4.99 rate on a new car is pretty stinking good because I've been seeing 6 and 7% at local credit unions and banks in my area. So I let them know that I would be doing a draft check from Navy Federal, which is similar to a cashier's check, but not fully. They said, yeah, that's not a problem. We'll be good to go. And then the balance from the check, you'll have to wire transfer. So no problem. So what happened is I gave them a $2,000 deposit on my credit card. I gave them the draft check, and then I wire transferred the last remaining balance that I was going to owe on the car. After the car gets here, I get 5 or 6 pictures on the car, and I'm told, hey, your car's here. I said, sweet, let me know when we can get it finished up. And this was like Friday afternoon. So I was not expecting anything to happen Friday afternoon at the middle or end part of May. Just wasn't gonna happen. I know the car dealership world, and it wasn't over expectation on my part. So I let it go, and then nothing on Saturday. Okay, Saturday, it's Saturday, right? Nothing on Monday. And so I hit them up late in the day on Monday, and this dealership is not in my time zone, so it was fairly late on their time as well. And I decided at 4:30 p.m. my time, which is when UPS picks up at the dealership, that I'm just gonna overnight this draft check to them. I wanna get this paid, and that is gonna incentivize them to get moving along. Call them the next day. Hey, did you get my draft check? Oh, I don't, oh, let me go check. And they find it. And that's when they tell me, oh, we're gonna hold your vehicle until this draft check clears. I'm like, excuse me? That is not what we discussed. That is not part of this deal. If I pay you in full for something, I expect to take delivery of that. Now, if you suspect me of fraud, if you don't think that I'm a trustworthy person, hey, go for it. I will say this too. I don't call and say, hey, I'm the Chevy dude, blah, blah, blah. None of that BS. They did find out who I was. And I don't know if I gave them a hint on the conversation, but I didn't call up and say, hey, I'm the Chevy dude. Did tell them I own a dealership. And I think that's how the Chevy dude thing came up, because I got a phone call or a text message from the salesman. It's like, you're a famous guy. I'm like, I'm not famous, bro. I'm just a guy on the internet doing stuff that gets a lot of views. They know I own a dealership, so I think as a professional courtesy that I own a dealership and they own a dealership, or they run a dealership, they don't own it, they run it, that they would give me some professional courtesy. Right out the window. So I said to the manager, the finance manager, this isn't what our deal is. I said, this is not cool. I said, I think we need to renegotiate the price of the car. And I said, I need $5,000 off MSRP. And they immediately, this is the only thing crappy managers do in the car business. We'll just refund your money. We'll just cancel this car deal right now. I'm like, oh, this is where you're gonna go on my first objection of how you're treating me horrible. You're just gonna be like, oh, we'll just cancel the car deal. That is the lowest of low responses to a customer who is unhappy with your service. So I'm like, call me back, let me know. No call back, nothing. So they told me that they were gonna wait for 10 days. And so day 10 came, nothing. Day 11 comes, hey, we can finish this up. I go wire transfer the money, and they have no idea what they're doing. They say they do a lot of out-of-state deals, but they don't. I can guarantee you they don't. They use the same company we use as a third-party company to do out-of-state deals, and I had to tell them how to use the program. That tells me right there that they don't do a lot of out-of-state deals. And then they wanted to get my license plate here in Indiana. No, I don't want you to get my license plate. I will get my own license plate, because we're getting a specialty plate, which I still haven't figured out yet. And then they were like, oh, just e-sign these documents. No, we can't e-sign documents. You're gonna have to send them to me, because Indiana does not accept e-sign documents. Oh, okay. So I wet sign all the documents. I send it to them overnight on my bill, overnight it to them, and they get them. And then we do the deal like the next day. I wire transfer the next day. And they're like, okay, well, you can pick up the vehicle. So we go and we ship it back, and a few days later, and I get it here, and that's it. But the biggest issue is the trust factor that they had. And very humbly, out the door, you're sitting about $160,000 on an Audi RSQ8. This is not the first time they've sold one of these cars out of state or to anyone else. And because Volkswagen Group has Volkswagen, Audi, Lamborghini. If you go back several years to my friend Mr. Beast, he did a video that he didn't think was gonna happen very well. And that's what he was gonna dress up as a homeless man and go buy a Lamborghini. And they treated him phenomenal. They treated him amazing. And they didn't know who he was. He maybe at the time had 1.5 million subscribers. They didn't know who Mr. Beast was. And he went in there to buy a Lamborghini in cash, dressed as a homeless person. And they treated him phenomenal. And that's the message that I want to put to all the dealers out there, is you need to treat customers with respect until they give you other reasons why not to. I can go on a list and list and list of what's going on in this industry of how you, a dealer, is f***ing this company up and is screwing this industry up. It is uncalled for. It is unnecessary. And you need to take the approach that the customer is always right. The customer is first. In my dealership, my employees are first, and then my customer comes next. And because I, as the owner of my dealership, knows that if I take care of my employees are gonna take care of the customer. And for these managers to sit here and just try to rip a car deal out of the salesperson's lap, right? There's no guarantee that this salesperson is gonna sell this car. And I'm sure he's getting a pretty good commission on this as well. For that sales manager to just try to rip that out, and then I get a call from the salesperson on speaker and then general manager, and then they're like, oh, take care of us on the survey, blah, 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 blah. Get bent, bro. It's like, whatever, the survey, I get it that it's important, but you should have thought about the survey before you treated me like someone who is incapable or unable to buy a vehicle.
And I want to ensure that you get the whole point about this video. It's not about me, it's about you. Because if someone like myself with 7,000 plus transactions in the car industry can get taken advantage of and have a bad car buying experience, so can you. And I thought about taking this channel another place, actually thought about shutting it down, a few other things, but this car deal has done something that gives me a refresher. And that is, I said back in 2000 my third goal was to be a disruptor in this automotive industry. And I want to be a disruptor to the advantage of the consumer. So therefore, you can count on me having more car buying tips, more transactional processes that is going to give you the upper advantage over a car dealership. And in a nutshell, you as a consumer are the one who controls and dictates the car deal. You as a consumer is the one who can control having a good or bad experience. And when you have the knowledge and wherewithal, you can get that experience. And I'm going to share with you in future videos of what I think I did wrong after the fact of how I could have done something different. So therefore, you don't have the same experience that I have. So make sure you subscribe.